All right, hey, what's up? Happy New Year. I guess I can still say that, right? Welcome to the Loaded Radio Podcast, your weekly deep dive into the world of hard rock and metal. I'm your host, Scott Penfold, and this week we have an absolutely killer lineup of guests that you do not want to miss, okay? First up, I'm joined by Steev Esquivel, the powerhouse vocalist and bassist for Skinlab. Now, these groove metal legends just dropped their first new song in nearly 4 years, titled Flesh Wounds, back in November. The track is raw, heavy, and absolutely crushing, showing us why Skinlab remains a force to be reckoned with in the metal scene. Now, the band has teamed up with renowned producer Ulrich Wild, the guy behind legendary albums from bands like Static X and Deftones, and they've signed with his label, Worm Group, which is where all this new magic is happening. We'll get into what's next for Skinlab and the story behind the new track and tons more with Steev. Then, speaking of Ulrich Wild, he'll be joining us for the second half of the show. If you've been a fan of heavy music at all in the past 2 decades, you've probably heard his work. Ulrich is a Grammy-nominated producer and mixer who's worked with some of the biggest names in the business, including Pantera, Static X, and Breaking Benjamin, just to name a few. He's the mastermind behind the Worm Group label, which is giving heavy music an innovative platform for creative freedom. We'll talk about his production style, his work with Skinlab, and what he sees for the future of heavy music. But before we get into it, I want to remind you to check out loadedradio.com for all the latest hard rock and metal news, exclusive content, and of course, the live internet radio station. It's streaming 24/7 with live personalities and killer tunes, so don't miss it. You can also catch up on past episodes of this podcast while you're there. And hey, don't forget to download the Loaded Radio app for free. It's the easiest way to stay connected with everything going on in the world of hard rock and metal right at your fingertips. All right, let's kick things off with this guy here. He is the vocalist and bassist for the band Skinlab. He's the only original member of the band left, but they still crush, man. They got the new tune Flesh Wounds, which dropped back in November. Steev Esquivel from Skinlab joining us here on the Loaded Radio Podcast. Steev, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
You know, Flesh Wounds, working with Ulrich Wild on this one here. How did this collaboration come about in the first place?
Oh, shit. I've been chasing fucking Ulrich my whole life. Finally got him in bed and I ain't letting him fucking go.
Really, eh? Sounds I'm really
Yeah.
He's been chasing the guy over and over again.
You know, I mean, he's done all of my favorite records, like my favorite record, Rob Zombie, or White Zombie, Astro Creep, you know? Like, that was a time, and I remember the first time I met him was at NAMM, and I would chase around NAMM, and he's a real quiet guy, so it kind of comes off like he's unapproachable, you know, but surely that's not what he means. He's just quiet, and so am I. So I kind of inched my way to him, and I was introduced myself, and I was like, dude, how the fuck did you guys create Astro Creep? And he just looked at me and he was like, it's when technology and $1 million came together. I get it. Fucking A.
That's great, man. And, you know, the tune's killer, man. Absolutely. It's really great to have Skinlab back as well, too. I mean, I know you guys haven't really gone anywhere. I mean, there were periods where you sort of went away, but it's great that you guys are back. You know, and now with just the one song, does that mean that there is going to be future releases? Are we looking at an album, an EP? Like, what's going to be coming out after this?
You know, yeah, fuck yeah. There's tons of music coming. We're writing thick ass shit right now. But this song was dropped. We did it in no fucking hype, no fucking ads, no extra, you know, stuff. We dropped it and we released it. That was the plan. We knew that Skinlab, we've been in so many different, you know, positions with, you know, Century Media before they were a major label or whatever they are now, spending so much money on us, and everyone doing the record, you know, all, you know, the radio campaign game. And you know what? We just figured our name, we've been out there for so long. Let's just do this, the old J. Cole. You know J. Cole is, right?
Yeah, of course.
Hype, just dropping into the fucking streets. And you know what? It worked. It fucking worked. There was no fucking, you know, pre-game hype, just music. Very proud of it. I mean, we were on tour when it got released, so it not only was a secret to the world, but it was almost a secret to us. I'm not sure if Ulrich did that to me ever. It fucking worked, and sure surprised out of everyone, and there's nothing like people being stoked that you're back, you know?
What was it like actually working with Ulrich? Were you like literally in studio with him, or was it like a remote thing?
Yeah. Well, this time around, this song we were already going. We had already laid down the drums with my brother Pat Servito, who's in my other band, Oceans of Oblivion. Up and coming producer, fucking amazing too. Big shout out. So we were already on our way to recording, and we figured, you know what? we're that, we've been called that band, that traveler with no home, which is kind of true. Although we have a couch in every fucking city all over the world. We just thought we were going to do it ourselves, and we were going to drop it, no fucking hype, nothing, and go for it. And then Ulrich got wind, and he said, "Hey, what the fuck is this? Skinlab making a record without us?" And I was like, "Oh, really?" So we called him, and it was like, "Well, dude, we didn't know that you were into it again." Venomous was just, big. We had such fucking a huge accomplishment with it. It's a great record. I think it's one of our favorite ones. And the pandemic just fucking shut us down. So we had no idea what our relationship was with Ulrich anymore until I got this email. And we stopped everything, took a few steps back. You're like, holy shit, the King's back involved, And then he offered us a deal through his label, which meant no third party, just us and Ulrich. And we have such a great relationship that it was just a no-brainer, no-brainer. And you're seeing direct results of just fans, friends, and family fucking giving us love,
That's great, man. So there's new stuff happening. So you're doing that with Ulrich as well then, obviously?
Oh, fuck yeah. This next record is going to be with Ulrich again. Hopefully the one after that. So right now there's one song recorded. We fucking had one song. We actually recorded a Hatebreed cover that we're kind of sitting on. It'll be released sometime. No rush, but fucking
very
brutal
cool
as fuck as well. But we were doing this with the assumption of just putting out one song until Ulrich came around. And I mean, I've been writing for the last 2 years, so we have about 13, 14 songs. And, me, Fabian, Marco, and then we're going to bring in our boy Scott Sargent again, who was on this song and played lead on it. He's going to, he's going to help me reel back in that Skinlab feel, because at this point, I'm the only original member left. However, I've always been the main songwriter anyways. So that Skinlab sound is not going anywhere, and having Scott involved, still 20 years later, is fucking not only, my best friend involved, but he's just an amazing fucking musician. So, yeah, man, things are firing on all cylinders, and, I'm very grateful to be talking to you, and, we're getting a fucking second lick at this, and let's fucking go.
Okay, you got to give us a timeline. Is there like a sort of approximate timeline on when this thing can drop?
Yeah, 2025.
2025.
So we're gonna we have East Coast run of short dates before NAMM that we're gonna do with our boys in Dead by Wednesday, and we're gonna do about, I think, 8 or 10 shows, and then we're gonna wrap it up for touring for a few months and finish writing the record. We should have the record finished written by January, by the end of January, and then we're hoping to get in there February, March to start tracking and everything.
That's beautiful, man. And, even looking back at Skinlab, like you guys have been labeled as like groove metal, but I mean, to me, I find that your sound is so multifaceted. How would you personally describe your music? Because I mean, you guys are essentially looked at as pioneers of the groove metal, I guess, genre. But I mean, how do you look at your music?
Just fucking super heavy stuff. We fall on the line between fucking Slayer and Crowbar, and we've always worn our fucking influences, proudly on our sleeves, which means Machine Head, huge influence, fucking Metallica, Slayer, all those bands. And, yeah, that's great. We've been thought of pioneers, but ultimately, it's our influence, it's everything that we grew up on that fucking got us to where we are, that's in our blood. The Sepultura, the Soulflies, you know what I mean? Even the new shit. I'm all over. I'm on top of every fucking thing, bro. Nothing gets by me. Born to Shore, fucking Slaughtered for Veil, thrown into Exile. There's a bunch of new shit, man. You just have to keep on the game, and
Yeah.
Or else you're gonna wash away. Or else you're just gonna wash away.
It sounds like you like the real brutal stuff, the new stuff, which is great, man. That's awesome.
I do, but I'm a sucker, bro. Seven Dust is my favorite band. I love Seether. I love Shinedown. Dude, I'm a music fan first and foremost. And that's kind of why I have my other band, Versus and Oceans of Oblivion, so it doesn't water down Skinlab music, which kind of happened on the Revolting Room. Some of my more radio style stuff that I love and melodic vocals kind of found its way on the record. 20 years later, it's cool, but then it was, we got people were wondering what the fuck's going on with Steev, so I had to make different outlets for those styles of music, so Skinlab stay true to what we're known for.
Now, what inspires your songwriting and lyrics? Like, do you draw more from a personal experience or world events or something else entirely for you?
Yeah, everything's personal. I try not to get into political stuff. I draw the line there. I'm right in the middle. For everyone who wants to fucking know, I'm right in the middle. I just want peace, and I want everyone to be happy. I want our gas prices down, and I want to be able to fucking buy some eggs. Other than that, I'm right down the middle, guys. I have there's no agenda on my list. I love to keep my eyes open and speak about everything that I've gone through personally in my life, which has been the records, that you've heard have all been pretty much a lot of pretty much these albums are therapy for me. It's kind of remembering some of the bullshit that I've gone through in my life, trying to make good out of it, trying to speak out on things, and hopefully other people can avoid, some of the issues and, problems that I've gone through in my life that I've documented, and it seems to have, we get fans and friends everywhere, that relate to those songs in different ways. So all our lyrics are open to interpretation, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and speaking of your creative process, how have you found it's changed over the years, especially with the advent of new technology in music production? Have you found that, it's a lot different today than it was 20 years ago when Skinlab is creating new music?
Yeah, we used to jam in our studio in Oakland fucking 4 days a week. If you didn't show up, you're fucking in trouble.
Yeah.
Everyone's pissed off at you. And nowadays, my one guitar player lives in Puerto Rico. The rest of my band lives in San Francisco, Oakland area. So thank God for technology. We've all learned how to adapt, some more than others. The pandemic kind of had me hone in and learn how to record. And very fucking grateful for that because, we can help track some of the stuff like we were able to do with the song, with Ulrich. So got to stay with the times or get left behind. That goes with everything, streaming platforms, social media, which we're learning every fucking day, man. With gray hair like this, sometimes you're late to the game on shit, so you got to do a little more research. But thank God for hair for men. I'm not always gray. Yeah, and that means maybe it's people our brain cells a little bit of that youth.
Now you're mentioning that you had some live shows coming up. How do you approach set list creation and, to keep both diehard fans and new listeners engaged? Like, how do you attack a set list?
Well, most recently, because we've had a couple Snake left the band during the pandemic, so we've been, scrambling around to find someone to sit in for the last tours. And, we've been catering to, what we could teach our guitarists most recently, but it expands out the fans when you come out after the show to the merch booth and meet everyone. They're like, why didn't you play Accelerate? Why didn't you play Paleface? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. You think about these things, and every tour you try to add in more. We're coming on our 6th record, which means that's almost, fucking 60 songs and plus. You know what I mean? Yeah. We have a lot to choose from, which is cool. And we try to make the fans happy, but there are the songs, and we're not fucking the Scorpions or anything, but Skinlab do have our hit songs, you know what I mean? Our Know Your Enemies, our Palefaces, and Scapegoats, and people, they want to fucking hear them. If I can tell you one time, and this hopefully will never happen again, one of my homeboys said, hey, Steve, if I guess the set list tonight, will you tell me? And I was like, fuck yeah. Dude, he went on about 7 songs before I said yes.
Really?
And the 8th one, he's like, bro, you got one more before I fucking leave. And luckily, he was a good friend. He was fucking pulling my chops, but I hit the last one. We were playing it. Know Your Enemies. We got to play that song. We'll get beat up. But that was a taste in my mouth that I'll never forget. I felt like I disappointed one of my friends, one of our longtime fans. And you just have to fucking think about, but what can you do?
What's your take on the current state of the metal scene, and where do you see it going in the future? Do you think metal is still as prominent? Does it exist still? Is it still got, was Gene Simmons right? Is rock dead? Is metal dead? What do you think?
You know what? Gene Simmons is a fucking idiot. That's fucking bullshit. I don't know what he's listening to. Maybe all the Triumph and the Steve Winwood and all that stuff that we all loved back in the day is gone. But no, fucking metal is, I think personally it's bigger than ever. It's fucking playing, where was I the other day? Oh, I was at the Harley Davidson shop, and they were playing, like, I almost thought it was Born Ashore. It was like something fucking bombastic. I'm like, dude, if you guys are playing this here, check out my new song. So people are accepting. I've seen on commercials. I've seen, metal everywhere. There's festivals in the States now. Real festivals, not unfestivals. Yeah, man. I'm a fan. I love everything. Spirit Box to fucking Knock Loose, shot, look at those dudes fucking sending ripples down the fucking wavelength. And I support it, man. I support it. We'll be right there with them. We're not going anywhere, and our music's still relevant because we do keep our nose to the ground, and we smell what's out there. And I think that's what you hear in Venom, and what you're definitely going to hear in this shit for sure.
Awesome, man. Now, do you have any advice for any up-and-coming metal bands trying to make a name for themselves in today's music landscape? I mean, it's obviously changed tremendously in the last 20 years. What would you say to bands trying to make it today?
Don't let your daddy manage you.
That's great advice.
Yeah, don't let your dad manage you. Get out there and fucking go to all the shows you can. Don't be a shy guy like me. I was very, very lucky to have gotten the help, the love that I've gotten back in the day starting off. But I was always a fly on the wall. I've always, I guess being a bigger guy, I'd never liked to push my boundaries, and I've always kind of waited on the sidelines, and that's worked just fine for me. But you have to get out there, you have to shake hands, you have to look people in the eye. And the one thing you don't want to do, and I've learned the hard way, don't talk shit about other bands.
Yes.
Good advice. You'll get knocked loose real quick.
Yeah. Good point, man. Very good. Very solid. Steev, you know what? It's been so cool talking to you, man. I've wanted to talk to you for like so long, and I'm glad I was able to make that happen. I'm talking to Ulrich in the next half hour. So, I'm looking forward to this show, man. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ulrich, hopefully you're saving them oranges for me. That's another thing. If you ever book time with Ulrich and you go to his studio, make sure you book it during orange season.
Orange season? Okay, I'll bring it up to him.
I'm just going to leave it at that, so let him know I said that.
You got it, buddy. Thanks so much, Steev. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Awesome. Have a great day, and thank you for support.
And there he is. That's Steev Esquivel from Skinlab. And yeah, man, new stuff coming out from them this year. Can't wait to hear that. As I'm a huge fan, man. I've dug that band for so long, and it's really cool to have been able to talk to Steev here on the Loaded Radio podcast. But speaking of, no, man, we're not done yet. I'm now going to talk with Ulrich Wild. We were talking about, he is a famed hard rock and metal producer. I mean, he's worked with everyone from Pantera to Static X to Breaking Benjamin to Rob Zombie. I mean, the guy is absolutely legendary. And he's also got the Worm Group music label, which is something a little different than just your typical label. Okay, so he joins us right now on the show. Ulrich, how you doing, man? And thanks for joining us on the Loaded Radio podcast.
I'm doing all right.
I actually just wrapped up a conversation with Steev from Skinlab. And,
cool.
Yeah, man. And he was, of course, very ecstatic about having the chance to work with you in that opportunity. And, of course, with Worm Group, which is your label. Before I want to get into Skinlab, how did Worm Group really get started? What made you decide to get started with that?
It's kind of it's basically like a throwback, but the hats are on different heads. Back in the day, you had labels that had studios and staff producers, but the world changed, and I decided that we need to have producers that had studios and labels. So it's basically like just a change of ownership, I guess. It kind of came about because, like we used to make demos with bands and then shop them around to get a deal, and then they'd get signed, we'd get a bunch of money and make a record. Right. But that kind of changed because, everything imploded. More on that later, I guess, at some point. But everything changed, and, you just started making demos and you didn't get signed, and then they just kind of went away, or, you gave them to the band and they didn't do anything with them. And so I just decided it's kind of like a strength by numbers kind of thing, where you have, you make these, and the demos got better too, obviously, because everybody had the technology at home now to make quality recordings. So these are really CD quality demos that we made and that got shopped around and nothing happened. So we just decided to, release them on our own and have our, it's kind of like a developmental label. It's like a profit sharing kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's how it came about.
And specifically, how did you get connected with Skinlab and get them involved?
They've been on my radar forever. They came up through the same ranks, or during the same time as me getting started. And, we'd cross paths every once in a while. And, but ultimately, I was aware of them, but ultimately I got a call from them to make their previous record, Venomous. And, we just ended up getting along really well, made a really cool record, and here we are continuing on.
Yeah, Steev was saying that, of course, the new track dropped, which is amazing, dropped last month. But Steev was saying there's like 11 or 12 songs. There is an album that will be dropping at some point in 2025, which is very exciting news, definitely.
Oh, yeah, we definitely have new music in the works. And, the exact plans of the release schedule is still up in the air. But, because everything's changing with, dropping albums versus singles and all that stuff, we're trying to figure out our best game plan to get the most ears and the most excitement.
Now, you know what? I really do want to touch on your production career, which is just legendary, man. You are, you're up there, dude. Like, I have such respect for the work that you've done, working with everyone from like Rob Zombie to Deftones to Static X. I mean, what first drew you to music production, and what were your influences when it came to getting behind the board?
Music production, I realized, I was in bands just like anybody else was, or a lot of people started out in music production. I was in a band when I was a kid, and I came to realize that my forte wasn't so much in being a performer, but rather an editor and a guidance counselor, if you will.
Right.
And so that's kind of the avenue I took. I think I'm good at getting the best out of people and helping them make the best record that they can at the time. I just kind of fell into it. I don't know. I just like doing it. And so I started doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of easy that way. Like sometimes some things are easy, like getting started or getting wanting to do something is easy, but then it gets harder along the way. And if you keep doing it and hang in there, that's when you start getting some success, I guess.
Well, I mean, you've worked on projects ranging from, metal to alternative rock. How would you describe your approach to creating a signature sound for each artist? Is there a particular way that you approach these different artists?
It's mostly about digging into the essence of them and finding out who they are and what clicks and build on what they've already built so far. Or if they're completely new baby bands, then just, kind of helping them guide into something that they didn't even know they were. It's just really important to find out what they want, what their vision is, and help them accomplish it. It's not my record. None of these are my records. They're all their records. And so, really, like, there's a uniqueness to every personality and to each combination of personalities in their bands, and that is what sets them apart, and that's what you have to kind of dig in on, and that could be anything, really. You just have to be open to it.
I think that part and parcel with that would have to be the rise of digital tools. Do you find that that's changed your workflow? Do you have a preference for analog or digital production yourself? Like, what's your approach?
I think my approach is sort of still the same as it was when I made records on tape, in that I try to make decisions along the way as opposed to leaving it till later. I think that's kind of like that was like the main difference. Like sonically, I could go either way, really. You just have to accommodate the medium and make the best record you can make and use your engineering skills to make it sound good. You have no excuses one way or another because all the tools are fantastic these days. But it's mostly a decision-making process that goes along and, along the way. Like if you just keep pushing up, if you keep having options and pushing decisions down the line, you'll either have to sort through an enormous mess of things, or the vision never really becomes clear. So that's kind of what I'm doing every time, digital or analog,
Oh, I get you, man. And and just looking at your resume, it's just so vast. We're talking Pantera, Deftones, Powerman 5000. Just to bring up a couple of names, what was your insight to working with Pantera? What was that experience like for you?
Very formative. I was still very, very young at the time, and I was very fortunate to be Terry's helper and right-hand man. Mm-hmm. It was there, it was Terry's gig, and I was along for the ride. But I learned so much about, just personalities, how to deal with the situations and having fun in the studio and still keeping the eye on the ball and, dealing with just madness every day. And, it was just such a formative time for me, from days that I do remember, because there was some drinking involved from what I was told.
Even going back to some of your earlier stuff, Deftones, Around the Fur, I believe that you mixed. Did you mix that album? Is that right?
Terry mixed it. I helped him. Yeah. Again, that was I was kind of his right hand, helping him out in any which way I could.
And of course, Powerman 5000, White Zombie. Endless lists. Is there an artist or a group that really stands out to you as something that you are really, really proud of, like a project that came about, yes, that worked perfectly?
I don't know if any of them worked perfectly ever. It's it is work, and you are trying to create something, and there's always growing pains with all of them. I always try to have the project I'm currently working on be like the best project ever. And so looking back, obviously you have the things that stand out that are, that have stood the test of time, that were successful. And there's so many things so many parts in the machine that have to, work together to get the project to be successful. You end up handing over a record to a label, and then you're kind of done, and you wonder what's happening. But so when something does really materialize and you see the fruits of your labor come into life, then those are the ones that stand out, only because of the success involved with them. But really, every record that I work on, I want it to be the best that it can be, and from that point, it's kind of asking somebody, who's your favorite child? Yeah. And that's you might have one, but you don't want to tell anyone.
Gotcha. Right. That makes sense, man. Aspiring producers out there right now, really trying to break into the music industry, what advice would someone like you give them in this modern day and age?
Just to start and get going. I think a lot of people have this idea that they need to do something right or correctly, or wonder if something's good or not, or they try to wait for equipment to have the right sort of gear and whatever. And none of that matters. It's the song and the idea and the spark, and get it recorded any which way you can. Start on the iPhone. Everybody's got one of those things at this point. Start recording it, and so and then you build on it. I get so many questions about, is this preamp good? It's yeah, fine. It's a fine preamp. You're not going to make the song better by having a different preamp. You know what I mean? Is this guitar good? It's like, does it stay in tune? Yeah, then let's go. Well, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's such a thing to get hung up on, that I don't have to write stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, well, maybe you not knowing what you're doing makes it really cool, and somebody trying to change that will ruin it. So let's get started. Like, don't wait. Don't hesitate. Get recording.
Getting back to Worm Group, Ulrich, what are the plans for the future? Obviously, you're going to be seeking out more artists to add to the roster. What are your plans currently? I think you have a roster of about 3, 4? Who's on there right now?
We have a band called Raven Black, and we have a record in the works with those guys.
Yeah.
Nearly finished that one. We have a band called Die Humane that is really cool with Rick from Exodus. And so we have more songs coming out with those guys. I can't really have too many bands on the roster because, there's a lot of labor of love involved, and it's very time consuming.
Sure.
And I do want to be able to allocate enough resources to each of the projects. So we're capping it out at that, except for we're looking at Oceans of Oblivion with Steev as well. That's his other band.
Oh, right, yeah.
That we're working with. And so, yeah, that's it for a moment. Got our hands full with those.
Yeah, and Steve had mentioned to me to mention to you that it's best to be in your studio or work with you during orange season, whatever that means.
We have an orange tree that he really likes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, Ulrich, I wish you the best of luck with the new label, man. And again, it's been a real honor talking to you. Like just the endless people you've worked with. It's very, very cool. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here on Loaded Radio.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Ulrich, take care and all the best.
All right. Thank you. You too.
That's Ulrich Wild. He is the famed hard rock and metal producer. Hey, you know what? Just all-around producer. That is Ulrich Wild, and great speaking with him. I think he's our first producer that we've had here on the podcast, I think. Yeah, but yeah, man, definitely open to talking to more because those guys, they've worked with everybody, and they just got so many stories, you know what I mean? But Ulrich, definitely really happy that he was the first one we could get here on the podcast. As always, don't forget, check out loadedradio.com. Okay, yeah, get there and get all your Loaded Radio content, get all your hard rock and metal stuff right there, as well as the 24-hour radio station, past episodes of this podcast, and tons more. And don't forget to download the Loaded Radio free app. Get that wherever you get your apps, okay? Free, and you can get this podcast, all the latest hard rock and metal news, tour dates, and as well, the 24-hour live stream, okay? I'm Scott Penfold, and I'll be back again next week with an all-new edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you then. Loaded Radio.